welcome in everyone to episode 202 of the Podcast Podcast. I'm your host Caleb Peng, and I've gotten rid of the other host for the takeover. You know, it's just me and Tristan left. No, I'm just kidding. The other two can't make it today.
Caleb
but
held Stephen
today will
Kaz
be probably
accountable.
yeah. For their insubordination. No, definitely not. Kaz unfortunately is busy with some stuff and seems a little bit under weather, and we need him well and rested for the Melbourne Regional because he will be casting that. So stay tuned for that. But before we talk about the events too, we have a quick update on the Rockets. You want to talk about the Tristan? Because I know you have some info on this.
Yeah, so we did get the new rocket rotation. The leaders are a little underwhelming in my opinion. We have I believe it's Trapinch, Gibble, and Horsey, which in my opinion is a lot less exciting than having Skorupi and Cubone in there. But
we've had Trapinch and
mix
Gable before in the leaders, right?
Gibble's new, I believe.
Oh, okay. Trapinch,
I think Gibble's new to the leaders. Trapinch is not.
Before. Yeah. Trapinch is a weird one because I don't think anyone really even wants that, but you know, it is what it is.
I mean, Shadow Flygon is nice for some like limited metas, but it's definitely not as exciting as like what we just had, for example.
Yeah,
and then
I don't even think it's like it's irrelevant. It's just that a lot of people have good ones already because it's been around for so long. I think. I don't know, that's just my guess. I'm sure there's some newer players.
I think I still need a better one, but
yeah, okay.
There was a long time where it wasn't available though, so I don't know. It's not as exciting as what we just had, but it's decent, I guess.
Yeah, I think I'm mostly speaking for myself, but yeah.
I think probably the most exciting bit of the rocket rotation is that Galarian Weezing is available as a second slot encounter, so not the highest chance of getting it, but it is possible to get a Shadow Galarian Weezing from the Fairy Grunt, which is pretty big because that's not been possible before. So definitely keep an eye out for that one.
That's super exciting too, because
other than that,
before that, I think the only way you could have gotten it is from if you saved the old one and evolved it during that one event, or if you like rated it during that previous rocket event. But having it permanently, at least for the
IVs
next,
from
what?
Yeah,
and at least having it permanent in the next
couple
3 months
maybe.
in the rocket rotation is nice, even if it's rare.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, we've already talked about like what the new shadows are. It's nice that like Shadow Mankey's still in encounters. Shadow Skorupi moved to Poison Grunt, so you can still get that, which is nice. But I don't know, not the most exciting rotation overall. I feel like some of the higher quality shadows aren't necessarily in rotation right now, which is unfortunate. I mean, I guess we do have Shadow Squirtle is back in rotation, which is nice after Blastoise got rollout. So that's a plus as well, but a little unfortunate that things like Lapras, Malamar, or no, sorry, not we do have Malamar, Lapras, like Spoink, and like Cyndaquil aren't in rotation, but at least those are all in shadow raids for the event. And something that I didn't realize until yesterday when people started raiding is that the shadow raids actually have an IV floor of 0. So you can actually get from 1-star and 3-star raids during this event, you can actually get some good IV spreads. So it's a lot more worthwhile doing those raids now than it is normally. So again, unfortunate those aren't in grunts, but at least you have the chance to do them in raids. You can now remote raid them and invite friends. So like last night I did a Shadow Lapras and invited a couple friends who were looking for better ones. So it's nice we have that at least. It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing.
How hard is it to solo like a Shadow Lapras, or is it pretty doable?
I think
I know it's
I
like what, three
think
star, right?
Shadow Lapras is pretty hard from what I've heard. Yeah, I think I've heard it's pretty
Oh,
hard. I
okay,
think you
okay.
need like a. I think I saw someone saying you need like a level 50 Mega Lucario and Cloudy or something like that, maybe. So Shadow Lapras is definitely
Whoa.
tough.
Okay.
So most people are gonna need
Yeah.
the help. So it is nice you can invite people remotely, and I know a lot of people are looking out for that. So team up, knock it out, and get everyone some Shadow Laprases. Because I do think Shadow Lapras is
Yeah.
well positioned right now. I think we talked about it before, but um, because the Shadow can often get breakpoints against, I think, things like Corviknight, Tinkaton, and Alolan Sandslash, I think it's potentially better positioned than the regular Lapras in the meta right now.
Yeah. I'd agree with that too. And I think because of that too, a lot of people are actually probably running Skull Bash these days on their Lapras over Ice Beam because you just hard win the mirror matchup. But obviously, a lot of trade offs there, especially into grass types. So something to still consider. But yeah, so definitely grind out this event. Unfortunately, the Rocket event isn't very long. Like it's until what, Sunday, I believe. It's not even a full week, unfortunately.
So, yeah,
But
I wish these events were
definitely
longer. Like, I feel like the Rocket
yeah.
events are some of the most exciting events, like both for PvPers and
Mhm.
PvEers, and like I just feel like they're fun events, and it's unfortunate that a lot of them are only like 3 or 4 days. Like, I wish they could be a full week. And or it'd even be nice if
Well,
we could have like 2 rocket events per season, maybe. Like, just give us more chances to
yeah.
do these, because like it sucks when we have these new shadows come out and you only have like 3 4 days to grind them. Maybe you only get 1 or 2 because you don't have the most time, or you have bad luck finding them. Maybe they're not the best IVs, and you have to TM what you have, and then you have to wait a few months for the chance to TM them again. Like, it's just not an optimal system. So I wish the events were longer and or we had them more frequently.
I think also in the past there has been times where it's been like a full week long, but this time around is much shorter for whatever reason. But I agree with you too. I mean, even if you're a PVE person, you're not a PvP person, and you don't really care for rock events, like you could just ignore the rockets, right? You don't have to necessarily do them either. So I don't think it's like really necessarily a bad thing to have it longer too, even for people that don't really care about it, because you could just not do the rockets. But um, yeah. But
Yeah,
anyway,
well,
a lot to
a
grind
lot of
for,
raiders
particularly that.
do like the rocket events too, because they're because shadows are some of the top raid attackers too. So it's a
Oh, for
PvP
sure,
and
for sure.
PvE event in my opinion. So
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
applies to a lot of
Yeah,
people.
definitely. Um, I think Shadow Inkay is definitely what you want to target as the new Shadow Pokemon as far as they come. For raid purposes, probably Shadow Lapras, and then Galarian Weezing being a new Shadow encounter is always good for to go for. And then I think obviously other Pokemon that you could go for upgrades on is nice too. Particularly like Shadow Mankey, I think, because Shadow Primeape I think still has a lot of play in this current meta, and then maybe even a little bit Shadow Nihilate. I don't know. I would just raid both or do a bunch of those if you can, because you never know when Primeape or Annihilate might become meta again. I don't know if they're super meta right
Yeah, I've been
now
trying to do them, but I keep
in
getting
this Minicom
Machops from
meta,
my
but
fighting grunts.
it's usable. Oh, yeah. Well, unfortunate there.
Yeah, it's been
Well, speaking of
frustrating. I keep
Machop,
getting
what a
Machops. I'm
fantastic
like, I want these
segue
monkeys. Come
we
on.
got here. Yeah. Well, we do have a Machop Community Day Classic, and that is taking place in 2 weeks. So Saturday, the 24th, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. And yeah, just Community Classic, nothing too crazy there. I don't think there's okay. So the event bonus is actually kind of nice. 3 times catch Stardust for the event, so that's actually quite good. And then the standard lure modules lasting 3 hours, snapshots, all that stuff. This is during the was it Johannesburg and Portland
Portland.
regional weekend, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Is there another one? I think there's another one too.
No,
Maybe not.
Johannesburg already happened.
Um. Oh,
Steve
okay. Oh,
went to
sorry, sorry.
Johannesburg.
The other one it's the other one in South Africa, right? Um.
Oh yeah,
Um.
Durban.
But
Yeah,
Durban, yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
just Portland and Durban.
So
because there's 3 events
Yeah,
this upcoming weekend, and then it's just Portland the following.
yeah, and then Bogota is or Bologna is the last event I think when it comes to regionals, right? Yeah, that's the last regional. There
Yeah.
is actually. Oh yeah, I'm really confused because there's Oh, okay, yeah. That makes sense. Okay, so I think for Stardust purposes, it's great. If you don't have a good, I mean, Machamp, whatever, like you could, like, it might be good to have. I don't know. You get the charge attack payback. So if you have any shadows that are you're holding on to evolve, I think it's good to have one with payback and one without, right? One with Stone Edge. Maybe even have three. Like one, because Stone Edge you have the Elite TM, so Stone Edge payback, and then one with just like Rock Slide or Close Combat or
Yeah.
something, whatever you decide to do. But they're not super. Machamp's not super relevant
Hey,
at the
but
moment,
maybe you
but
need
there's some past
6 so
metas
you
where it
can have
has been.
Karate Chop and Counter in case they
True,
ever
true,
unnerve Counter.
true. So you technically need
But
12 because you need
yeah, not
shadow,
the
six
most
shadow
exciting.
and six non-shadow. Yeah, yeah. Um, it's kind of
Anyways,
like a Machamp week though
yeah,
because we
mostly
also
for
have
the
Machamp
dust. I
Dynamax
guess if you need like
coming
XLs
out.
for like raids or Master League or max battles, I guess like if you're short in XL candy, get
Yeah.
some if you're trying to level up your max moves on your Gigantamax Machamp, which is coming the next day.
hmm Yeah, it's the very following day, so it's kind of just a Machamp weekend, which I don't mind. I'll be in Portland at the time, so hopefully there'll be enough max particle spots or whatever that you could reach. But anyway, standard max particle limit increased, and then oh, you get 2 additional special traits. Is that usual for max events? Maybe it is. I might have missed that, but that's actually kind of cool, especially for
I
those that
don't
are
know.
going to
I
be at the
haven't paid
regionals.
attention, but
Because yeah, I don't fully recall, but because we'll be at the regional too, that's nice because that's extra special traits you could do, which is great. And then there's of course event tickets and all that stuff. So this is the debut of
I don't
Gigantamax.
know.
I'm a champ, I believe. Yeah,
I don't
you
know
don't
if
know
we
what,
will
Tristan?
or won't get extra specials because if we'll get extra specials or not because I've seen the event bonus for regionals and stuff be listed differently. Sometimes it's like 2 additional special trades, but sometimes it says like 3 special trades per day. So if it's 3 special trades per day, then I don't think it stacks. You see what I'm saying? So I guess we'll have to wait and see with that. But either way,
Yeah,
even if we don't get extra at
I
Portland,
think
it's nice for
generally
everyone else to get
speaking,
extra
it
specials.
should stack. Yeah, but I don't know. Sometimes it might not, but generally speaking, I think it does stack. Um, that's pretty much going to do it for our events, though, and I think that's probably going to round up our May events. As June, I mean, there's Go Fest and stuff like that, but we don't have too many other details. We'll stay tuned on the uh the community day stuff. I know we made predictions on community day, and we'll see. We'll see who's right here
We
because I
have
think 3 of us
dates
gets
though.
Como, and then we have dates. Yeah, the dates for community day is like the weekend right after uh Go Fest Europe and and NAIC because that's the previous weekend. So um
Yeah,
oh,
so we
that
have
might
we have
also be a
community days
reason why there's
Saturday,
not as many
June
people at
21st.
NAIC. Yeah. hmm
Yeah, exactly, because they overlap. But yeah, we have Saturday, June 21st for Community Day. We have a 2-day Community Day Classic, which is interesting. Saturday and Sunday, July 5th through 6th. I saw some people were speculating it might be
Yeah.
Eevee because that was a 2-day Community Day in the past. Um, Sunday,
That's a
July
good guess.
20th, and
And
then
we haven't had
Saturday,
one
August
for
30th.
classic.
Yeah, we have not.
Yeah.
And then there's a
Yeah.
ton of events. I'm not going to go through all the dates, but we have let's see, a raid day, a max battle day, a max battle weekend, a research day, a max battle day, a hatch day, a raid day, a shadow raid weekend, and a raid day, all happening next season in addition to 3 in-person go fests and a global go fest and NEIC and Worlds and 3 community days and a community classic. So
Yeah, that's quite a
the
bit.
summer months are
That's
going to
quite a
be
bit.
pretty packed yet again with just events after events.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the Niantic's MO of late, which is not too bad because sometimes events are good, sometimes they aren't, but it is what it is. Um, I do think that at some point in time, Scopely is going to be fully taking over the game in the coming months if they haven't already. I don't think they have fully yet, but some people are speculating is like after GoFest, which is a possibility. Where it kind of makes sense too. So well, we shall see. But I feel like there's a little hints of Scopely impact already with like the remote raid pass increase permanently, right, to 10 instead of 5. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there's other stuff that I'm like, a part of me is like maybe just
And the
Niantic
ability to
doing
like
Niantic
remote
things, but
shadow raids and
yeah, part of me feels like it might be a more higher leadership decision change. I don't know. That's just my own personal guess, but I'm not saying necessarily that's truly the case, but it's a possibility. Um, that being said, that's going to do it for our events. Obviously, no Cast Corner this week. Let's head down to Championship Series because we don't have too much in relation to GBL and stuff. So APAC playoffs happened, and we do have uh our winners from that. How far down is this? Who won? Who won the APAC playoffs here? Why am I not finding it? Wait, APAC playoffs
um,
didn't happen. Yeah, I don't think
yeah, it did.
APAC playoffs happened. Oh, it did. Oh, here it
No,
is.
they
Here it
did.
is. Oh, yeah. My bad. My bad.
They were just a bit
Um.
back.
There,
We just didn't have time to cover it last week.
yes. Yeah. You're right. Okay. So me Tranjar. Uh. There's 100% possibility that I mispronounced that. But me Tranjar won the whole event, and Walker 0623 got second. Um, and Septile. Septile. The Septile King is the Walker guy. They tagged Septile King. I was like, who's Septile King? So those two will be the ones that will be making it to World Championships. And I believe these are two first-time Worlds competitors, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but yeah, Mitranjar won it all with a Shadow Quagsire, Shadow Steelix, Tinkaton, Talonflame, Superior, and Jellicent.
Interesting.
That Superior is particularly annoying, I will say, because it's like I feel like it's a lot more RPS, but it has so much harder winning matchups into like the water types, whereas like jump off is a little bit more iffy on some fronts. And but also has like so little play into flyers, right? And
Yeah.
fires. So it's a lot harder to use in times, but I think in the right position, it's very very strong. I was screaming against one yesterday, and it was kind of a pain to deal with. And it could be a good adjustment too if a lot of lappers are running Skull Bash. But there's not too much lappers in this particular tournament. However, there's a sprinkle of Tinkaton here. There are only 3 in the top 8. Um, not a ton. We had a Bastion come in 4 too, which is kind of wild because I feel like Bastion in a Tinkaton meta is even worse than I expected. But I don't know. You have some coverage, I guess, with Flamethrower. But yeah. Outside of that, nothing too wild here. Obviously, slightly different region, so maybe a little bit different meta picks. But you can see that they're starting to coalesce a little bit around the Tinkaton meta as well. Definitely, I think this tournament took place like somewhere late April though, so maybe a little bit less
April 26th.
Tinkaton focused. Yeah. So anyway, that will be it. So, big congrats to those two competitors, and we'll see them at Worlds. We also had the Taiwan playoffs, and that one also took place fairly recently too. Oops, my browser closed out of Jacobus for some reason.
That happened this
But yeah,
past
who ended up winning
weekend.
that one? Okay, yeah. Game Bird,
Yeah, so that one was won by
and Game Bird.
Gamebird
Yep, TW. Won it last year as well. I believe Gamebird also went to Worlds in Yokohama, so 3 times in a row qualification for Gamebird, which is pretty solid. Gamebird didn't win it that Yokohama year, but still did really well, I believe. Let me just double check exactly where
Wait, and
Gamebird
Gamebird ran
finished.
Pocket's team, it looks like, right?
Let me
Lapras,
see.
Diggersby,
Yeah, yeah,
Tinkaton, Shadow for
yep,
Alligator, Shadow Jumpluff, and Malamar.
yeah, yeah. So obviously the shadow instead of the non-shadow because Pocky didn't have a shadow at
And
the
then,
time. Probably has one by now, but um, yeah.
yeah.
And then a lot more Tinkaton this
And
meta,
then our
which I think
second
makes
place
sense
was,
because it took place May 14th. Yeah.
yeah. Second place was Mitch Ange, 1978. He ran Lapras, Claydol, Tinkaton,
Hmm.
Shadow Drapion, Galarian Corsola, that we haven't really seen in a while, and Galissapod. Um, So yeah, definitely a lot more Tankaton in general, but there are some interesting variety of picks here among the top few. Like third place had a Furret, Shadow Blastoise, Shadow Galarian Weezing, and Mandibuzz. So definitely some variety here. But yeah,
Yeah.
congrats to those
Yeah.
top two. Is there anything else here you think is noteworthy, or should we move on to Thailand?
No, nothing too crazy. But out of the top 8, there were 6 out of the top 8 did have Tinkaton, so you can see more people gravitating towards Tinkaton as the weeks progress since its release. But yeah, Gamebird, I did double check. Got second place in the Taiwan qualifiers in 2023. Then got first last year. Got first again. So very high consistency in these tournaments from Gamebird. Qualifying in the past 3 years straight was definitely no easy feat, especially when you only get 2 qualification spots. Right, that's kind of nuts. Gamebird also,
Right.
funny
Yeah.
enough, got 65th at Worlds, both Yokohama and last year in Hawaii. So I'm sure he's looking to break that curse this coming year. But we'll definitely see how he performs. Definitely looking
Oh,
forward to it too
here's
because
one
very
other
consistent player.
interesting thing I noticed is 3 of the top 8 all ran Pockets team.
Whoa.
So
Okay.
definitely
That's quite a lot of mirror matches. I'm sure
definitely
that we
seems
end up
like a
seeing.
pretty meta team at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, seems like a pretty
Yeah.
meta team at this
What's a
point.
core breaker here for his team? I think Town Flame's kind of annoying to deal with, but nothing too
Shadow
crazy.
Typhlosion.
Typhlosion is a pretty annoying one too. Yeah, because no clear answer there. But yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
because the
we'll see if he will
Typhlosion
continue
beats the
running or not. But
Gator. It
mhm,
can beat the Lapras shields up. It's actually not even too terrible into Diggersby. Um,
yeah,
And like, yeah, probably like Diggersby and Malamar are the best quote unquote answers to Typhlosion, which like neither is that reliable. So the Typhlosion is pretty safe and neutral into that team. So I do think we're gonna see a lot more Shadow Typhlosion moving forward. So again, if you need a better one, it is in Shadow Raids right now, so you can take advantage of that if you're trying to upgrade your IVs.
yep, yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised so if we see more Shadow Typhlosion stuff in the upcoming tournaments. We'll actually probably see. I don't know if Melbourne's going to make the adjustment or not because the meta sometimes is a little bit different in Australia. But I also don't know if how many people are actually going to copy Pocket's team in Melbourne. Australians seem to run a lot of their own kind of unique picks. So, but I do think that we'll probably see a
Yeah.
more increase in Shadow Typhlosion usage. It's not the easiest Pokemon to use, but as long as
Yeah,
the
we
ability
also
to
have
easily win
Utrecht.
matchups without your opponents
We have
trying to catch.
Utrecht and Santiago
Oh
this
yeah.
weekend as well.
Whoa! That's actually a lot
So we
more
have
tournaments than I
3
thought. Yeah.
tournaments this
Okay.
weekend.
It's funny because I think the Melbourne staff. I mean, I know it's more third party. It's not officially hosted by TBC at the broadcast, but I think they announced their casting announcement first, so that's why I only knew about Melbourne. But yes, there will be Santiago and Utrecht, which should my guess is should have pretty high participation on both fronts. I think Santiago usually caps out, and then uh, Utrecht's a special event, so in all likelihood they'll have a lot of signups. How many are just like spectator tickets or no shows? We'll see, but hopefully it doesn't run into a lot of issues like was it Sevilla? I think had some issues because there were a bunch of no shows and a lot
Yeah,
of people just couldn't get into the tournament even though they want to. So a little bit unfortunate there, but hopefully they have a way to address it if a similar problem comes up for Utrecht
yeah,
this time around. That's I mean that's just a tough part about
yeah. And
special
then the
events, right? Because
other
it's
tournament
free to
we
register,
had this.
but
Yeah, yeah. The other event we had this last week was
yeah, and,
Thailand. And
yep,
Teddy Nis
yeah,
won that. I believe he's a 3 times world qualifier. This is his first time winning. He's come second place, I think, the last 2 or maybe 3 years, falling short to BJ. But this year he was able to get his first uh,
yep.
championship of the Thailand playoffs. And he was
Yeah,
running
they've had Thailand playoffs
um,
for
a
three
bit of
years
a
straight. And he got second in both of the last two. Because the first year was APAC playoffs, so it was just like all of APAC combined essentially. Um, but yeah, yeah, he was. He does finally win it, and you could explain his team too.
yeah, his team is interesting because he didn't really go for the. Actually, a lot of Thailand didn't really seem to go for Tinkaton as much. Um, he didn't really get on the Lapras Tinkaton meta shift, so he's still running Azumarill Shadow Drapion core as well as Galissapod, Alolan Sandslash, Cradily, and Malamar. So like all very strong Pokemon, and like I wouldn't say any of them are like off meta, but some of them have dropped off in usage a little bit more recently with the addition of Tinkaton, but like all still, you know, quite good Pokemon within this meta, and just a little bit of a different team look than what we've been seeing in a few of the other tournaments.
Yeah, it's actually it's funny because that team's not very strong in the Tinkaton either, right? Azumarill loses it. Glycepod's not clean. It's not like a true counter, right? Especially if you get hit by a play rough, it gets kind of weird. Alone Sand Slash is not great if they have Bulldoze. I mean, you have Bulldoze as well too, so it's kind of like a little bit on the even side. But with Powder Snow, you're throwing resistant Powder Snow as well. Drapion's not great if they have Bulldoze. Cordelia is walled off, and Malmar's not amazing either. So opposing Tinkaton is actually very strong into that team, but somehow Tenios was able to find win cons. So pretty impressive stuff. That being said, there are
I
only
mean,
two
I
Tinkaton in the
think
top 8 and 5 in the top 16. So there actually wasn't even a lot of Tinkaton for
5
Titans to
total,
even
yeah.
have to worry about. But
Well, top
yeah,
16.
but this was a recent
I
tournament
think
too. So
I think top 16 is the whole tournament, by the way, if I remember correctly.
yeah, because it's just the playoffs. Yeah. Yeah, that is correct. There was a Chansey in there somewhere too, which is kind of wild. And it wasn't even a
And
stall
then
out team. It's just a random Chansey, but kind of nuts.
int- interesting team from second place as well. Double Hippo also qualified for Worlds, running Azumarill Shadow Drapion core with a Cradily as well, and Galissapod. So 4 of the same 6 actually. And then they ran Clodsire and Pangoro as the other two. So they were a little bit
Yeah.
better into Tinkaton because Clodsire's a pretty reliable counter. But obviously the Pangoro isn't great, but you can still chunk it with close combat. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
interesting that the top performing teams in Thailand didn't really follow this Tinkaton Lapras meta shift that a lot of others did, and sort of stuck with a little bit more of the old meta with that Azumarill, Shadow Drapion, Cradily, and Galissapod um, quad of Pokemon.
Yeah. It is it is yeah, I'm curious how the battles look there, but yeah, big congrats to Ted Nisto for finally winning it. But yeah, very high consistency, just like Gamebird TW. Top 2 and 3 years straight in a like you have to win or get second to qualify. It's kind of nuts. So very high consistency from Titanus, and
Yep.
excited to see how he performs. It looks like last year he didn't go to Worlds, but the year before in Yokohama got 33rd in Worlds. Um, so and took down Yakai and took down Rise on the way to that 33rd spot. So pretty impressive stuff. Um, but didn't go
Oh
last
wow.
year. Hopefully we'll go this year too. I believe first place does get a travel award too, so should be a little bit more feasible. Assuming there's no like visa issues and anything. I don't know if there are any visa requirements from Thailand, but um, hopefully we'll see him there. But other than that, that's a recap on our APAC tournaments. We do have three regionals coming up: Santiago, Utrecht, which will definitely be streamed, and Melbourne, which is streamed on I think Steve's Twitch channel, if I'm not mistaken. So be on the lookout for
Yeah,
that.
Steve's Twitch
Is the
channel.
Santiago one streamed?
I don't believe so.
Okay, yeah.
I could
I
be
mean,
wrong,
if
but most of the LATAM events this season have not been streamed.
yeah, it's tough too because they'll have to go through third party, and it's not easy to set those things up. So, big props to the Melbourne staff
Yeah.
for doing it. Yeah, so you can find the Melbourne stream on twitch.tv/PvP Steve7. Just one E after the V this time, not a bunch of E's. So, be on the lookout for that. But that'll be I don't know. You could look at the time conversion. I know
And then
Steve tweeted it out,
Steve
so you
is
can take a look at that.
Steve is also Steve's also streaming VG Day 2 on Australian Sunday. So that's kind of cool that he's
Oh,
got that set up to give
interesting.
Australian players a little bit of a spotlight from VG as well. Because Go's just going to be a 1 day on Australian Saturday, which is Friday for us in the US. So it'll be a 1 day for Go on Saturday. So then
I
he's
didn't.
able to
What did he
stream
post
the
at?
VG finals on Sunday. Um, I don't know if he
Yeah,
did. I think
I
some
didn't even know
members
he was
of
doing
the
that.
VG community posted it. Um, I just
Oh,
saw
okay.
it in another server I was in. Because yeah, it's cool. He's gotten like local
Yeah,
VG players to like commentate it. Because they obviously are a lot more knowledgeable on the subject than he is. But yeah, if you're interested in VG, you can check that out as well. Um,
yeah, yeah.
so yeah, really cool. He's
All
getting that up
right.
and going to
Well,
showcase Pokemon in Australia in multiple games.
yeah, 100%, 100%. So that's going to do it for our championship series. So definitely stay tuned to see how those go. And yeah, outside of that, nothing too crazy. Did we just head to YouTube comments, or is there
We had a
anything else that I
couple
forgot to
more.
mention?
Wait, there's a couple other championship series things. First we had a Go tournament rules handbook update. This
Mm-hmm.
past week. So definitely take a look at that for like all the specifics, but a few of the like more important changes. There's added clarification on what constitutes a new Pokemon in terms of like the eligibility rules for new Pokemon. So basically, that's anything that's new to Pokemon Go, anything that has a new form. So like if we had like Kanto Marowak was already in the game, but Alolan Marowak got added in, that would count as a new Pokemon. Just clarifying that anything that's newly eligible to Great League that wasn't previously available. So like I know there was a lot of uncertainty about eligibility rules for something like a Giratina Origin because it's like, is it a new Pokemon or not? Since Giratina Origin was already in the game but new to Great League, so this clarifies if it wasn't previously like able to be gotten under 1500, that counts as a new Pokemon, as well as anything that's newly has a new Shadow form, and then anything that gets new moves added to the new move pool. So just some clarification there. Um, but really, the biggest things are going to be that the eligibility window has changed, where previously it was the Tuesday following release. It's now going to be 2 Tuesdays following release. So a little bit of a longer period this does sync it up with the eligibility rules they use for TCG, where new sets aren't eligible for 2 weeks after release. And this means that the Shadow Malamar will not be eligible in Portland, and we'll have to wait till Bologna to see tournament play. And then the other big thing is that there is an exception to this eligibility rule, which is the quarterly seasonal attack updates that Niantic releases. So we won't have any more halfway metas. So that's kind of a
Wait,
big one.
so
So
yeah, because
as soon as those
I
move,
saw a lot of people
what was
talk
that?
about how there's. Well, I was gonna say I saw a lot of people online talking about how there's not going to be any more halfway metas, but like, how is it? Wouldn't there just be 2 weeks of halfway metas then instead of 1 week? Like, it's still like there's still going to be a halway meta, right? There's no way you can avoid that if
No,
there's a
no,
tournament in
no,
that time
there's
period,
not.
right?
It says there will be one exception to the rules. The quarterly seasonal attack updates that Niantic releases in March, June, September, and December will be immediately eligible for tournaments upon release.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood that. Okay, because I thought that the 2 week like shadow rule thing still applied to the old rules. So that is actually a really good change. I'm a big fan of that. Um, I don't know too much. I don't regarding the shadow form thing. I'm kind of like ambivalent on that change because let's say for example, so technically Shadow Malmar is not eligible for Portland, right? Which for me I
Yeah.
don't really mind because I'm competing at Portland, so I don't have to grind it as hard. But at the end of the day, let's say if that rule wasn't implemented, the shadow event will be over by the time Portland comes around anyway. So even if I get a good Shadow Malmar after the shadow event, I wouldn't realistically even use it because it had frustration, right? Um, so I guess like for this immediate tournament that I'm about to play in, it's nice because I don't have to stress about Shadow Malmar. But I think that from a fairness standpoint, it doesn't really change too much either way because even if it's on the old rules, like if you're going to grind for the Shadow Malmar and get a good one, you would have done it anyway. Regardless of if you don't get a good one, you would have done the grind anyway. But again, like I don't think it's a bad
I mean,
change.
for Shadows in
I
particular, but
don't
it's
actually
two
think it's
weeks
a big
in terms of,
difference. Yeah,
well,
2 weeks
in
in
terms of
terms of what?
Shadows, it's not a big difference. But in terms of new
Yeah,
releases,
yeah,
it is a
yeah,
difference, right? Like, for example, King Gambit. Now you have 2 weeks to do those raids for King
yeah,
Gambit instead of just 1 week, right? So that definitely
yeah.
makes a
Yeah.
difference there. And again, I think it's just
I
standardizing
guess
it a
like
little
maybe
bit with the
Tingatong's
TCG eligibility rules as well. So mostly just something to keep in mind.
yeah,
Galarian
yeah.
Corsola is a big one.
I don't
Back when
I
that was
don't think
released.
necessarily because TCG does it, Go has to replicate it as well. But that being said, just like TCG, sometimes it's hard to acquire what you exactly need for a Go tournament beforehand. I mean, if anything, it's actually probably hard to acquire something for a Go tournament than TCG. TCG, you probably have to pay a premium in those first 2 weeks after release, but it's still probably acquirable if you really try to. Whereas for Go, sometimes it just might not be acquirable, right? Like let's say like if you're trying to go to good IV spread, you know, Tingatong, it's just might not be possible in 2 weeks, in 1 week of trading, right? Even 2 weeks of
Yeah,
trading with people. Um, so I do think
right.
that's
But yeah, I think it's good. It
yeah, that
just
could be a solid change.
gives people more time to get resources and to practice with the Pokemon, practice against the Pokemon. Um, so it seems like a solid change in my opinion overall. But really, the no halfway meta I think is the biggest one, and that's a huge plus. Big fan of that.
So quick question. So let's say um if there's like a new community, let's say like a Zumro community, for example, right? And it's like the weekend right before a tournament. Um, can people use that new Azumarill moveset in the tournament? The community, because it's not a new Pokemon, right? So technically, it could use that new community move.
No, no, because
Wait,
well,
why though? Because
because the rules say
oh,
new.
it's
It
only
says new
UDL.
Pokemon or new attacks.
Yeah. Wait, new Pokemon, new attacks for
It's the
what?
same thing
For the
like right
GBL
now,
season?
if there's a community. No, just for. No, so like it's the same. So right now, before this update, new attacks
Yeah.
still had to wait till the Tuesday following. So now they just
Yeah.
have to wait till 2 Tuesdays following. The rule has always been written as new Pokemon and new attacks.
I, I I don't understand then why people are saying no more halfway metas. It feels like there would just be a 2 week halfway meta. Or is it just for Go Battle League
What are you
updates?
talking
Those are
about?
like ignored. I think this delay's not helping, but okay. So
So
so break it down for
halfway
me again. So
metas,
it's so new
halfway
moves. Yeah,
metas are
yeah.
the
Go ahead.
Broly. Okay,
Mhm.
hold on. So halfway metas are the Broly metas you and Anacor used to talk about, which are
Yep.
when there
Hmm.
was a GBL update and you could use moves that were buffed, but you weren't able to use newly added moves yet. Those are now gone because of
Yes.
this
Yes.
exception. So like
Okay.
come
Okay.
June, right? There's going to be a June moveset update. If they add, I don't even know, if they add like Sacred Sword to Samurott or something, that will be eligible immediately because of this exception. So there's not going to be any halfway meta because the full effect of the June update will be eligible immediately. Both the move changes and the move additions will all be eligible immediately. But
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
then
So I think I think I
otherwise,
get it. So if let's
new
say Samrott's got a community day classic, and it got Sacred Sword for community day classic, you can't use Samrot with some Sacred Sword for 2 weeks after that community day in an official tournament.
correct, correct.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Or
I
like
got you.
with Break
Uh,
Palmot, right? 2 weeks after you need the 2 Tuesdays following for Break on Palmot to be eligible, but you can use all the other moves in the meantime. Or any other new moves, right? We had upper hand from a raid day, like whatever the
wait.
mechanic is.
So
If it's a new move,
okay. So
if it's a
I
new
get
move
that, right?
released like in
But
the middle of the season,
wasn't the whole point of the whole halfway metas is because sometimes the GPL update would literally happen on the weekend of a tournament? Is it because like Niantic slash Scopely is like understanding that like we won't update the game anymore on weekends, so that way it won't affect any regionals or tournaments? Because the whole reason why they did this, like you can't use it within a week, is because there were some tournaments that literally landed in the middle of the updates. Right, the update would happen in the middle of the tournament or like literally the day of the tournament.
well, even if it wasn't, the rule before was the Tuesday following. So if the update happened
Yeah.
on Wednesday, then those new moves were not eligible until the following Tuesday, meaning that weekend
No, no, no.
was a
I get
halfway
that part.
meta. Yeah.
No, no, I get that part. But the reason why this, I feel like I can't say for sure because I don't know exactly, but the reason why the rule I believe was updated was when me and Anacor were like, wait, there's like tournaments happening on the day that the update happens. The update's happening on the Saturday or on the Sunday of the weekend of multiple tournaments, right? And if you look far ahead, because it's usually be on like the first of the month, right? And then it looked like Niantic's been changing it so that it's no longer on the weekend, right? But that was the whole point of that initial rule, to my understanding, right? To even extend it to the following week, Tuesday. Um,
No.
but I guess this is under the
No, no,
assumption
no.
that there won't be any GBO updates over the weekend anymore, right?
No, that's not why that rule was put in place. That rule I think already existed. The thing was that Niantic presumably moved the update from always being on the first because they didn't want to have a situation where mid tournament moves were getting buffed or nerfed.
Yeah. So I
Right?
mean,
Because if an
I don't
update was
remember if
happening
Niantic's ever
during the middle
stated
of the
it.
weekend, then moves. I mean, again, they haven't. That's
Yeah,
just like a
what I'm saying
presumption,
is
right? We're
okay,
assuming
yeah.
they
That's what I'm saying.
probably are
Because
accommodating that.
Well, yeah, because otherwise, this new change where it's no longer on Tuesday, you could use immediately is not ideal if there is an update mid tournament. Like all of a sudden, like I mean, I guess theoretically you wouldn't be able to TM a Pokemon mid tournament anyway. So I guess that's not the end of the world, but you'll still get
Well,
a
it
slight
wouldn't
buff,
change
right?
mid tournament
Um,
because you'd already be locked into your move set.
yeah, you would be locked into your
You'd already
moveset.
be locked
Yeah,
into your move set when teamless lock.
it's potentially, right? Because if they do release it
You
on a
just
certain
way
day, depending on what
overcomplicated
region
this.
you're at. No, no, no. What I'm saying is there is a. I'm just saying. I mean, I think my guess, right? We don't know for sure, but my guess is Niantic slash Scopely has already worked out a deal with the Pokemon company saying, "Hey, we're never going to release a meta in the middle of a weekend." Because theoretically, there's a chance that the meta goes live like a few hours before a tournament goes live, and you could TM everything, right? Like without like with very minimal testing, right? That is always a possibility depending on time zone, depending on what day they actually release the update. But that being said, my guess is that TPCI has probably talked to Niantic about this, like, hey, like we're gonna make this rule set change, but also like I think we're understanding that no GBL update will happen on an actual weekend because that's when all the tournaments take place. But because
Right, but like
there
even
is
even if
always
an
a small
update dropped on a
possibility that it is
Friday,
released right
right?
before the
Let's just
tournament
say an
goes.
update dropped on a
Yeah,
Friday.
yeah,
Sure, but like let's say it
yeah.
was an update was dropped on a Friday. It's not really that
Okay.
much different between having to learn a new in between meta where a bunch of moves and got buffed and nerfed, but it's different than it was before, and you only have like 12 hours to lock in a team. Like that's not very different than having moves buffed and nerfed and also move additions. It's just getting rid of this halfway meta where there's one singular weekend where a meta exists and then that meta never exists ever again. It's making it so
Oh, I
that
agree.
all the tournaments throughout that GBL season are in the same meta.
No, I agree with that, right? I just think that people were still like not a fan of what because it used to be like that before they had the rule where you couldn't use stuff, right? There was definitely a time period where you could just use a Pokemon the moment it's released, right? As long as it's before the tournament started, and eventually change the rules where they couldn't, right? And I think some people like that because you don't have to worry about it. Like there's
No,
always a change where like
there was
chance
a
where like let's say
24-hour rule previously.
oh was there no matter what? Oh, okay. So now they technically get rid of the 24-hour
Yeah, it used
rule,
to be
which
24
I personally
hours and
don't
then it was the
mind,
Tuesday
but
following release and now it's 2 Tuesdays following release.
yeah, I mean, I think there's always going to be some cons to this, right? No matter what, that's out of anyone's control, right? Let's say like it is a Friday update and a tournament happens in Australia, and if you look in the time zone, like aligns where it's literally like maybe a few hours before the tournament starts on their Saturday, right? Or maybe somewhere outside Australia, maybe that's too far in advance, maybe like Japan or something like that. So there's always a chance where like there's a meta update happening right before the tournament starts, but my guess is that Niantic's agreed to just do these on like Tuesdays, whatever. Because there's never a tournament that starts that early in the week, right? But if you legit have a GPL update on a Friday or
Yeah.
even a Thursday, it's definitely pushing it in terms of how little time you have to prep for a tournament, especially if everything's eligible right away in the GPL
Yeah.
season. Anyway, whatever. We've
Yeah,
ranted enough
yeah,
about that. That is an important update to note, though. So, yeah, no more halfway metas, but new additions. So, no biggest distinction here. TLDR is GBL updates. You're good to go right away. Any actual new Pokemon or new moves from any other events introduced in the game, you have to wait 2 weeks, or any different variations like new Shadow Pokemon. You have to wait two
yeah.
weeks.
It's a
Uh,
Tuesday 2 weeks following, but yeah. And
yeah,
then
yeah.
two other changes to note. There's a section about screen recording, and it notes that you can't watch back screen recordings unless a judge is present. So that's something to keep in mind. I believe this is primarily focused on like regionals and stuff with provided devices because they don't want people like looking at other recordings from other players. But it does pretty specifically say that this also applies to events where you're using your own personal device. So keep in mind that you do need a judge present to be able to watch back a recording at Play Pokemon tournaments, and this does include locals. And it also notes that players are not able to agree on rematches. If you have an issue, you need to call a judge and ask for a review. So those are um, sort of spelling that out in terms of like play Pokemon standards in terms of how things operate. I know this is going to have some growing pains because I know a lot of times, especially at locals, players often will, agree like, oh, that was lag, let's rematch. And unfortunately, that's not going to be possible going forward. So it's definitely going to have some growing pains and slow tournaments down, which is a little unfortunate, but hopefully this will result in more growth in the long term in terms of like more local judges putting in more effort to learn Go to be able to make proper rulings and stuff like that. So definitely a mixed bag here. I think it is going to be less than ideal in the short
Yeah,
term,
I saw
but
some mixed.
hopefully long term it kind of moves
Yeah,
things
I saw some
forward.
mixed comments online too. Um, we'll see if it actually like has very high impact in tournaments or not. I mean, I will say, like, I think there's the pro to this is that a more experienced player can't like pressure someone into like like not raising a review or whatever to a judge or dispute to a judge. But I think that
Right. Or pressure someone
uh
into giving them a
the
rematch, right?
yeah, exactly, exactly. If you're like, oh, I looked at this or whatever, right? You have to call a judge. Um, the uh, the downside obviously is that a little bit more work for judges. It's almost definitely going to be more work for judges, right? At a minimum, it's like barely any more work, but it's going to be at least a little bit more work for sure. And I think the other downside is some experienced players that have good sportsmanship, they'll look at the replay like, hold on, I think I'd lagged there. I think that was going to change the outcome, but let me just double check real quick. Because there's times where I've done that where I'll look back and I'm like, actually, it's okay. Like, I'm not going to like ask for a rematch or like ask the judge to take a look at it because like it's obvious that even though I lagged, it doesn't change the outcome. Let's just go on to the next game, or you could take the win for the series, right? Um, so I do think those types of interactions for sure happen, right, at every
So
tournament, right? There's always going to be people with good sportsmanship that
that can still
will go for
happen. It's
that,
just
but
gonna take longer. Because so that can still happen. It's just gonna take longer
yeah,
because you're gonna have to call over a judge and say like, "Hey, judge, I want to
yeah.
look at my recording." Because the judge has to be there for you to watch the recording. But like, you can watch it back before you actually try to ask for
Oh,
a
okay,
review,
okay,
because right, you need to watch it back to know what you're asking for in terms of a review. And maybe when you're watching it back you say, oh, okay, like I didn't lag there, or I did lag but it wasn't impactful, so we can go to the next game, sort of a deal, right? Like that's still possible.
yeah,
It's just going to take a little longer because you do have to call over the judge to be present while you're watching back the recording, which is obviously going to be a little frustrating and it's going to slow things down, especially I think at the local level. Because I don't know about you, but like some of the locals I go to, like they're running multiple play Pokemon tournaments at once, and so they have a judge who's running Go, who's also helping with like maybe TCG and VG at the same time or something. And because a lot of times we're able to sort of resolve things ourselves, they can be fairly hands off and just enter scores and progress the tournament. And like that's not going to be quite as feasible anymore. They're going to need to be a little more hands on in terms of being present for players watching your back recordings and need to give rulings and stuff. So it's definitely going to slow things down, which is unfortunate, but it just kind of is what it is.
yeah, yeah. Um, Either way, just something important to note too. I don't. I wonder where people can see these rules. So I mean, there's a way to check it, but like for newer players that aren't active on the scene, I wish there was like a prompt on Arcanine, be like, "Hey, double check these are the rules after you sign up for a tournament," right? Because I can see how newer players just don't know about this stuff, right? Or people that aren't like on X or social media and stuff will just go to a tournament and not realize it's a rule change. So hopefully there is an easier way to distribute some of this information down the road. I think building it into Arcanine might be the easiest way, but it is what it
Yeah, I
is.
agree
Or
with that.
listen to our podcast, but
That, but
yeah,
also like I'd also personally like to see the play Pokemon like X account like make posts about, hey, the rules were updated, because like that's not even happening right now as far as I'm aware.
Hmm.
It's mostly
Yeah.
people paying attention to these pages and seeing they're updated. At least I will note that within the rules doc on the last page, there's like a change log, which like points out like everything that got changed and like shows what sections they're in and what sections got changed. So like at least you can pinpoint what changed, and you don't have to like memorize every word in the document, because that would be ridiculous. But it's still requiring people to sort of know that it was updated to begin with. So I agree with you. It would be nice to have some sort of additional communication in various ways. Like, again, I think it'd be nice to see the Play Pokemon accounts make posts about the being updated. And like you said, RK9 is an interesting approach too. Maybe RK9 could, when you register, say, hey, just so you know, the rules were updated on X date. So if you haven't seen the update yet, take a look or something. I don't know. Um, but that is
I do
it
think that they've
for the
done
rule
that a
update,
little
at
bit in
least
the
the most
past.
important things.
Yeah. I think they've done that a little bit in the past, but not super consistent. But yeah, definitely could go a long way. Okay, but those are pretty much the updates from Championship Series. Good clarification on the rules too. Thank you for
Wait,
helping
one
me
more
understand
thing.
as well, because I was a little bit confused as well there, Tristan.
um,
Yeah, what's up? Yeah, what's the last thing?
One more championship series thing, kind of a big deal actually, is there was just a post like 2 days ago, Tuzi Esports, which is I believe a fairly big Brazilian esports team. I know they're pretty strong in Unite, and I think maybe some other games too. They have just picked up 8 Go players to represent them. Um, so it looks like Ju Muniz, Paulinho Tad, uh, Kanan, Areo, Zardi, um, and then I don't recognize a few of these other tags. I believe one of them is actually Steinar. Um, we have Lacerda
I think they're all
V,
like LNDS people
and
outside of
Malvezi.
Zardi.
Yeah, GBS Fonesca. Um, so yeah, they're all Brazilians and most of them are LNDS, like you said. But really cool to see another esports org investing in the scene. And picking up 8 players is pretty big, so I'm pretty excited about that, I have to say.
Yeah, it's yeah, they're all LNDS actually. So Oreo, Hard Jeff, and then Zardi's the one that's not LNDS. Steinar, Juice Muniz, Kanan, Paulinho Tad, and Corlash. So they have like slightly different handles in the image for some reason. But I think that might just be their X handles. But if you actually look at if you expand it, it's
Yeah. Oh, I didn't see they were
yeah.
tagged in the picture. Yeah.
Yeah. If you open a
Okay, I
tag,
didn't
yeah. See
realize they
they're
were
all
tagged in the picture,
um
so I was thrown off by the tags on the graphic, which messed me up. But
no, that's fine
yeah,
because the
that's
tags
those are
on
some
graphic are a
really
little bit
good
confusing
players.
too
So
because some of the tags on the graphic don't line up with their X handle, so I'm not really sure exactly what the tags are. Like, I don't know who is GPS Fonseca. Like, that's I don't know. It's not an actual handle on X, I believe. But it is. It's just Steinar. Well, I'll say
yeah,
the
I,
old tag. Yeah.
right.
I don't know. But anyway, um, yeah, but if you expand, if you look at who is actually tagged in it, you can see because it's hard to tell sometimes from the animated drawings, but or not animated, the cartoon drawing. But
Yeah,
yeah, big news. I mean, we had Luminosity and then now Tuzzy, so um, definitely more groups getting into Pokemon Go, uh, which is always a good thing for the growing of esports side of things. Um, yeah, that being said, I think that's going to do it for our events and championship series stuff. Let's take a look at YouTube comments because we're 2 weeks behind on that. But starting with our
I gotta
200th episode, we
call it
got
here,
to.
unfortunately.
Oh, okay, no worries. You hop out, and then I will cover the YouTube comments, I guess. All right. The takeover is truly been resolved. I am now the only one remaining here. But let's go over the YouTube comments to wrap things up because I know I'm 2 weeks behind on this. Hopefully, there's none specific to just my other co-hosts. Otherwise, we'll probably revisit some of those comments. We got a howdy from AJPZ. Howdy to you as well. This is from the 200th episode. Peter Rushworth says, "Great to see the goat Zionic." No, for sure, definitely one of the goats of PvP. Been around since pretty much the beginning, actually, even from the grassroots side of things. Timothy says, always nice to hear from Zionic again. Been listening since the very first episode, and it's kind of crazy. It's been going on for that many years already. Although I don't play PvP much anymore, it's still cool to stay up to date with what's happening through the podcast. Hey, that's great to hear, Timothy. Um, Great to have you too from the very beginning. Chad Hartery says, been here from the start. Keep it up, Caleb. Great to hear Zionix's great taste and was happy to meet him and chat at UIC in London. Cheers. Yeah, Zionix definitely he's definitely okay. I'll put it this way, right? As someone that is a content creator and knows a lot of other content creators too, like I'm not going to name any names, and this is not even specific to Pokemon Go, but there's a lot of content creators out there that are, I don't know, think they're like above it all, or think they're hot shots or whatever. But Zionic, in my opinion, has always been one of the most humble people, and does a lot for the community, but doesn't really like ask for much in return, or thinks he's like, some big show, whatever. And something that you all don't know behind the scenes, I might have mentioned this in the past in the podcast, but Zionic will go out of his way to like message smaller content creators with like tips on like how to do stuff, or like even when we were hosting podcasts together after our episodes, he'd be like, hey, like this is what you could do to help really grow your channel or monetize it better and all this stuff. And like it doesn't do him any good, right? By helping this, it doesn't help him in any personal way, but he's just looking out for other creators and stuff and other people in the space, which is really nice because I think a lot of other content creators in the space are like more cutthroat and like, no, you're taking my content idea. I'm not going to help you out and stuff. You're my direct competition and blah, blah, all that stuff. But no, Zionic, I truly mean it when I say like he's like genuinely like one of the like nicest people too. And yeah, we're happy definitely to have him back on for sure. So who is Josh says, been here from the beginning. Always a great listen to work, and don't change from the tangents. That's why we listen. Yeah, I feel that way too. I mean, again, I personally love tangents a lot too, even when I listen to other podcasts. Also, from the goats, can we have the OG theme again on the beginning of the pod or close this week? Do miss it. Not saying the new one uh, isn't bad, but I think it needs a bit more hype. Wait, hold on. Let me read that. I'm not sure if I understand it. Also, from the goat, can we have the OG theme again at the beginning of the pod or close this week? My guess is the OG theme being like having Zionic's face in the intro. Is that what you mean, Josh? I'm not really sure. If you could clarify that. But yeah, I could definitely change up the intro clips and stuff. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the reason why the intro clips actually change. Obviously, when I have new co-hosts and whatever, intro and outro, like the video compilations for those that watch the YouTube version. Um, One, because I get new co-hosts, right? And two, my external hard drive eventually fills up on footage. So I have to delete stuff. So I'll delete older stuff. But what happens is, unfortunately, when I delete older stuff, it deletes the clips I use for the intro and outro. Now I've completely remedied that for this time around. It took me like 3 attempts to like figure it out finally, or to like correct my mistakes. But what I'll do is now is I'll compile a bunch of clips from like older episodes, then I'll publish it into one file rather than leave it as an edit file. Because what I was doing is I was taking the edit file from a different project in Final Cut Pro and copying over. I don't know. This is too much detail for people that don't do video editing to need to know about. But anyway, all that's saying is that all the previous clips from past intros with Anacor and Speedy and stuff, they're gone technically because I accidentally deleted the footage. Now they're not really gone because they're technically on YouTube, so I could just find it. I could just download the clips or like screen record the clips and redo it. So it's not gone, but it's a little bit harder for me to acquire, but it is acquirable. So all that's to say is that I could still add any previous clips from past episodes on for the intro and outro segments. But I just want to make sure that I'm understanding what Josh is saying correctly. But yeah, we definitely can do that too. Anyway, that's a little sneak peek into what the editing process looks like on my end, but it is what it is. And then from our last episode, Zays says, I feel you on dropping after getting super close. I was on leaderboard 2927 elo like a month ago and then plummeted to 2400s after. So infuriating. Yeah. And I think like that's the thing too. Like there's so many good players. I know because I run into good players at all sorts of elo, like names that I recognize or just people that are just outplaying me and playing really well too, right? Especially from that like 2400s, 2300s range to the 3K range. Like honestly, there's like some really, especially these days, there's some really good players in all of that. And sometimes it's just like you're just using like just the team use just gets like unfortunately like outpaced in the meta for whatever reason, or you just get, maybe play a little bit sloppy on one day and just drops you a ton, and then after that you just kind of like meandering around like 2 3s and 3 2s and whatever, all that stuff. Because I know this because there's a lot of times where after I hit legend, I'm beating some of the best people in the world and climbing past it. Like I'm in the 3100s right now, and I just barely hit legend, like less than a week ago, right? But it's sometimes like I think at the very top of the top, right, the people at like the 3400s, 3500s, whatever, like they're definitely doing something crazy, consistent. But I don't think necessarily that the skill different gap is as wide as people think. And yeah, that's why I always tell people too. There's a lot of time left in the season to still hit legend. We have about like I guess at this point, a little less than a month, maybe like a little over 2 weeks, I guess. But we have time, and there's also that gold battle week, which is what like 600 battles. So definitely a good time to climb. I do think also it's just my own speculation, but I think if we were to look at the average numbers, it could be a couple of reasons why the average elo is a little bit lower than past years. Could be that there's less players. So if there's less players, then the range will definitely be on the lower end because there's less elo to gain from. Especially if you look at like the leaderboards at the very top. But I think the other issue is that there's a couple of times where like I talked about this last episode where like both of you just mutually lag, and then both of you just can't recover the game file, and it's just you just lose. Like that's I'm pretty sure because both people lose, they both lose elo. The average elo just going down from those kind of bugs, which is a little bit more prevalent at this current point in time. And hopefully, Niantic Scopely fixes it. But yeah, but anyway, best of luck to you, Zays, on the climb. If you got to 2927 a month ago, and like there's very few people even in that elo range back then, I think you definitely got what it takes to close it out. So hopefully it goes well. Artemis Dragon says, shameless gloat post. I knew May's community was going to be a PP flop. The Palmy family are awesome and their shiny variants are out of this world, but there is no way that Niantic is going to shift the meta just a few weeks before the next season. That's a fair point. Is that necessarily true though? Haven't they done that in the past with Nihilape? Or am I mistaken? I don't know. Maybe yeah, maybe not. But that's a you know what? If you knew the Palmy family are coming specifically, shoot me a DM next time. You know what your predictions are. I may use some of that information for my next prediction. Don't actually though. I don't actually want to cheat like that. But yeah, I was personally surprised though because I thought that they were going to just rotate for like the starter and stuff. For sure. That's why I went with Quaxley, but yeah, I guess Niantic just switched the ball on us a bit. I will say the best part about that whole Palmy community is that you could just walk it for 1 kilometer, involve it, because I just did it for all my Palmy that are even or Palmots, I guess, that are even relevant for PP in any way, shape, or form. So no way I'm going to walk like 25 kilometers after the event. And then A Richie or A Rich says, can't confirm both sides lose. I went against a friend and it froze. When I DM'd him, he said it froze for him too. Yeah. So that was what I talked about last week where I lost a game where I froze up when I threw a charge attack and they probably froze up as well and we both lost. So I don't really know what causes that bug. I mean, I don't really know what caused a lot of the bugs, but that one is particularly tilting. So hopefully it happens less and less and it gets resolved. But that's going to do it for our YouTube comments. So thank you all for tuning in and dropping the comments. If you ever want to drop comments, you can drop it down below. There might be some Jen comments on Podbeam, but I'll take a look at that when Kaz here because I might need her help on the translation aspect of that. But anyway, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Best of luck to those playing in Utrecht, Santiago, and Melbourne. Should be a pretty exciting uh, week of tournaments, and we'll see if Typhlosion really does pick up in usage or not. But me personally, I will be competing in Portland, so I'll definitely be tuning into all those tournaments and seeing what I could do for my own team building as well. Anyway, I hope you all have a fantastic one. I know it's a shorter episode, but there just wasn't as many events to talk about, and obviously not having Kaz or Steve on removes some of the extra additional tangents and chatter, but it is what it is. Hope you have a good one, and we'll catch you all in the next episode. Peace out.